Hello, sexy human creatures. Keith Anthony Blanchard here with Center of Light Foundation Radio. Lots is happening with Center of Light Foundation. Dr. Katie Camara and I launched an LLC, and we have so much divine momentum behind us. I'm amazed how this is just flowering like a lotus opening up. We're going to be speaking about some lotus flower of peace in just a little bit. Keith Anthony Blanchard, good to see you. Dive in, spiritual workers. We're going to work. We're going to listen. We're going to hear. We're going to experience someone who's done the work. What is the work? At first, it seems like work. Then it becomes play. And then it becomes nothing. What is nothing? Nothing is everything. And that's something, I tell you. When you can live and be in a space of quiet, stillness, non-effort. You mean there's nothing you have to do except be your lovely, sexy human self. Full out. But you got to go full in to be able to open up that cavity that seems to choke and stifle the heart's expression. And that's the the monkey in the head. He's got a lot to say. You got to give him a banana so he can't speak. What is the banana? It's what he never got. That's why he's bitching and moaning so much. He wants something like a child. Treat it like a child. Pacify the child, nurture the child, help it to understand. Get it? Cool. Tonight's guest is Jenny Light from Gavin Lee Davies. He brought her into my life. Let me tell you a little bit about Miss Jenny Light. She has quite a resume. She does a lot. She's been doing this for quite a while. Let me find my notes on her. Everyone, while I'm thinking about it, her link is in the forum. So make sure you stomp all over her page. Make a big stank and let her know you exist. Tonight, my guest is Jenny Light, Awakening the Lotus of Peace. That's gotta be delicious. Jenny Light is a kundalini-awakened yogi, author, psychologist, podcaster, and inspirational speaker. She had awakened experiences as a child, has a Dru Yoga Diploma, and has been practicing yoga and meditation for 45 years. She has studied yoga with AYS, Sarah Ryan, Marc Acquiviva, Pete Blackaby and Self-Realization Fellowship. We're going to some Hansa Yoga Nanda stuff. Love it. Jenny is a meditation teacher on Insight Timer. She specializes in teaching meditation with an emphasis on yogic breathing. Boy, I used to remember those days of doing rebirthing, Sandra Ray stuff. Loved it. Mantra and concentration to guide her students, guide her students into the calm of expanded consciousness. Jenny graduated in psychology from Glasgow University in 1983 and left a career in teaching when diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome after 25 years in education. In her autobiographical guide to wellness, Living Lightly, a journey through chronic fatigue syndrome M.E, she shares her path of positive thinking, affirmation. She's got a lot. Let's keep moving through some of this, and then we can experience her dialogue and her bio through her. Hello, sister. How is you?
Hello, Keith. How are you today?
I'm good. You told me in the radio green room that you were from Scotland, and it's 1 o'clock there.
It is indeed. It's a long way across the pond.
Across the pond, yeah. I love it. You've been in Scotland all your life?
Yes, I have. Yeah. I've lived in the same town my whole life.
Let me ask you a question, dear. How did this get started for you? I mean, for me, it was pain, emotional pain from a relationship that went. I had no place other to go than up. So I was forced onto the path by not making correct decisions. How did you come into this crazy world of conscious expansion? Was it something that happened to you as a child? It was innate in you, or what was your story about that, dear?
As a child, you see, as a child, you think that everybody's the same, but I realised that actually, part of my childhood was unique. That I would waken up in the night with expanded experiences where I had this hot metal sensation going up the spine. I I would expand until I was as big as the room. I was filling the room with blue light, and I was at the same time as tiny as a seed. And then it would just recede again. And I had no words to describe it. I was age 5 or 6 at the time. And then, you know, I made this decision when I was 6 to go vegetarian. And I've just followed yoga since my mum, she brought yoga into my life when I was 9. So I've been practising physical yoga since then. And I started my own meditation practice when I was 14. I always had this idea in my head that everything's got to be done now. There's no pussyfooting about. You've got to get it done now because this life is so short. I had this feeling that I would want to know that I started as young as I possibly could in meditation because it was really important. So anyway, now I can say that I've been meditating for 45 years. So
something you said is, you know, you couldn't find the words to describe it. It's because, I mean, there are no words to describe stuff like that. I mean, we can use words and come close, but it dulls and it sullies the experience. Right. Tell me more about that hot rod in the back. How did that, I mean, can you give me a little more about, was this the kundalini starting to rise?
Yes, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know what it was. And it was a hot power that was running up through the spine, and I could feel it rising up. And as it rose, that part of the body became numb, and it just rose up. I would say over a period of about, I don't know, I'm guessing a minute, it rose up. And then as it engulfed me, I just was in this other state. I don't know whether I was floating in the room or whether I just filled the room or whatever, but the body I couldn't move, the physical body I couldn't move. And that was slightly distressing as a child.
It's sort of like a spiritual sleep paralysis. So you found yourself in an expanded consciousness.
Yes. And wow. I don't know how vast I was. I was as vast as you could possibly encompass, but at the same time, it was the strangest thing that I was also as tiny as a seed. So I was aware of myself as a seed within all that vastness. And then it would recede again at some point, and I would be able to move the body again. And I remember trying to describe it, you know, to my parents, but I didn't have I was 5 or 6 at the time, and I had no words to describe what was happening, and I don't think they would have understood.
You did say that you were this tiny seed within this vastness. Did you experience the vastness looking at the tiny seed, or was it always, this is me, the tiny seed, and that's the vastness? Was there ever a culmination, a unity?
That's a very good question. I was aware of the vastness and then the tiny seed. I don't know. That's a very good question. Was there a unity, or were they one and the same? I don't know. I've never really thought of that.
I can tell you that I know exactly the space that you're speaking of. Many years ago, I had an experience, a Godhead experience, but I came out of this tunnel, wormhole, whatever it was, and I found myself going up, metaphorically up, because it isn't up, it's probably deep. But I come into this space of the absolute void. There was nothing there. But even though it was dark, I could see, because it was my awareness, the light of awareness. It was my awareness that gave this space illumination. And I knew I had a body laying on the bed down there, gazillions of light years away. And so I knew that from this level that I was playing in, I have to be very careful about energy that I would push. So I set myself a little pulse on the bed way down there on earth for wellness and betterment. But I know that space of Infinite awareness. Were you able to see in all directions, or were you just forward?
No,
It's
I was.
different. It's just different. I get it.
No,
It's
no, no. I was. Yes, you're absolutely right. It is awareness in all directions. It's it's not just a forward. It's everything. But I mean, I think that's a very good question. The tiny seed person that I could feel. Um, I have to put it in context that I mean that happened as a child, and then when I was in my 20s and I was doing my spiritual healing training, and then my yoga teacher training, the same issues were coming up, the same kundalini thing, and a lot of the time I spent flat on the floor because the world was going round. I couldn't have anybody. Other people's energies were too strong, and it would just knock me into this kundalini space. I found it difficult to tolerate food, and even water. Sometimes I found it. I was a flake. But that coming back to that little seed, right, nobody's ever asked me this before, and this is me exploring it for the first time. This is a good question, Keith.
well. That's just, I don't want you to be uncomfortable, but take all the time you need. This is your platform, not mine. I'd love to hear it though.
But then, as I purified myself, as in there was all this, I've come to realise that possibly the seed is what is not me. That the seed may be just the dark aspect of what I was carrying karmically. But as I've purified myself, when I go into that expanded space, I don't feel that seed inside. All I feel is the expanse.
Do you still have the kundalini experiences to the level that, or have you melted into it to where you can wield it now versus having an experience of it? And how is that for you
Yes.
still? Good, good, good.
Yes.
So what brought you to write your new book? Is it out now?
Yes. Yes, my book.
Please show it.
Yeah, it's out here. It's I'll get the camera right.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
so
That's lovely. Oh,
it is.
fantastic cover.
It is, isn't it? I
It's
have to thank.
gorgeous.
I have to thank Suze McCallum for her lovely artwork, and
Right
also
on.
I have to thank in the inside. We've got beautiful hand drawn mandalas.
Oh, wow.
My daughter did all of those for me. There's 15 different mandalas in it, but the book was inspired actually by a poem by my guru Paramahansa Yogananda.
Now we can talk about that subject all you like.
Well, Paramahansa Yogananda came into my life latterly. I had his autobiography on a shelf for 15 years. Get this, 15 years. And every time I tried to pick it up, I got it in 2000. And every time I tried to pick it up, I was like, what's all this about? I just couldn't get into it. I just thought it was like reading Swahili or trying to read Swahili. And I went, no, I just put it back on the shelf for another 5 years, then brought it out. The same thing happened about 4 or 5 times until in 2015, I opened up the book and a light came out of the book. I was engulfed in this light, and when I read it, everything made sense. It made perfect sense. And I thought, this is it. This guy knows. And immediately I signed up with the Self-Realization Fellowship, and I've never looked back.
He's touched a lot of people.
Yes.
Lots. Worldwide.
Yes.
Any meditation, but more so, he is responsible for bringing yoga to the West.
Absolutely. And I've heard people question, that you need to have a guru that's in body, as in, in incarnation. But I disagree, because he speaks.
You know, a
You
lot
just
of people,
formulate a question in your head, and immediately you've got the answer back.
yeah, right. I am,
Sometimes he's very blunt and to the point as well, which I think
yeah,
is
yeah.
pretty much to his character.
I have a guru in my life, and I'm fortunate to see him a couple times a year, but since COVID, I have not. His name is Swamti Viswayogi. This is a God-realized man on earth today. His name is, he is Lord Datta. I'm a disciple of his, and so is many upon many people. So I'm familiar with being around these avatars, these God men. I got called to go to India to see Satya Sai Baba and had the most words can't describe it. And this, when I mentioned in my opening statement about when I first got on air, and I talked about Center of Light Foundation as being backed by the divine, it's all his doing. But when you mentioned that, you know, I understand the slogan for today, you're here to save yourself. You don't need anyone else. I totally get that. But if I'm walking to the grocery store, and the grocery store is 10 miles, and I don't have my groceries yet, and I gotta walk back, and on my way back, if someone, hey, you need a ride? I'm gonna go take a ride. Walk 5 miles. So I think the purpose in having a presence of such divine men or women is that they are an anchor of light, and they pull you literally, because physically they have a magnetic field. That way they can draw you in and work with you as they would themselves. So there are these avatars everywhere. They're anchors of light, like in a grid, where a grid intersects. They're at these points. And whether you believe that you need an avatar or not, there's one near you, tapped into you, doing its will through you. Would you agree with that?
I'm not 100% sure that they're going to be working with you if you don't give permission to do that. You know, I think you have
sure.
I think you have to be open and receptive. But interestingly, that grid of light that you just projected to me, I had a vision about that many years ago, about this grid, like it's just above the surface of the planet, and it's this at the intersection of all the lines of light around the planet. There is a light worker, a being that is really working to lift the light of this planet and lift the density, and to try and nullify the karma of many people around them. But you're saying that possibly that those anchor points are all avatars.
If they're here and they're lifting the light of the planet, so obviously peace is achievable. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. But it's every single person that, you know, it's our own consciousness. You know, the buck stops with us, that we purify ourselves, because that's the single greatest thing that you can do to affect the whole planet. You've heard of the 100th monkey idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So the 100th monkey idea is that it's about the collective consciousness, and that if a certain number change, then it's like a tidal wave that changes the consciousness of the rest. But yeah, so I'm working on purifying myself as much as I can, because I'm trying to lift the light on the planet and to help as many people in the process. Not that I might personally know them, but I'm trying to be of that service.
I love what comes out of being of service. One, you get to feel the bang immediately, and then you get to see the bang that's happening to them, and then you get to experience it on them, in you again. And this ball of light begins to turn within itself, and it begins to expand. Now, when we all as cosmic siblings begin to join in this family, this thing's going to just simply explode. And that's what's happening. I think everything is turning within itself, realizing itself. From the cellular to the atomic, to the human being, to the solar system, to the galaxy, to the universe, to the stellar, it's all just turning and expressing itself. In your book, Awakening the Lotus of Peace, you've mentioned spiritual experiences in your childhood. Would you like to tell us how these influenced or inspired you?
Well, I think they were the found stone, if you know the what do you call it, the base. Everything else just panned out from there. I mean, what I think myself is that as a child, I was only getting echoes really of where I had been in a previous life. I have memory. Well, if you call it memory, because it's not this life, but I have, you're there, you can feel yourself in it, and it's not imagination and it's not dreaming. As I mean to say, you could be fully awake and have these sudden realizations of a past life. And past life that I'm specifically talking about, although I remember many, but I'm meditating, and I'm in a jungle looking down over a steep valley, and there's the other side of the valley with jungle on the other side, and I'm sitting on this rise meditating, and I felt entirely at home and at peace. And I now know that was India, but I mean, I didn't know where it was when I was a child, but anyway, that I think I'm only continuing where I left off. But boy, I think the middle bit of my life, I had an awful lot to clear. It's been heaped on fast. I'm pretty sure I made a because I don't do anything by half. So I'm pretty sure that I said, as I embarked in this incarnation, from the astral to here, I'm saying, right, okay, let's just get it all cleared. Just get it all.
I love being here, but I'm also full. I'm full. I don't need any more outside candy, any more outside stimulation. I mean, I enjoy being on the earth. I do. I mean, and I love my work. I love being with people. That's my gig, is people. Meditation did a lot for me. I've done it for so long that I no longer do it. I'm doing it right now, like you are. But I do formally meditate sometimes. But I live in a meditative state. My entire life is this squeaky chair right here. This is my life. I wake up, I use the bathroom, I come sit in this chair, and I stay here to run errands or bills or food or grocery store or bathroom. That's it. Back in the chair. And I'm always in that meditative state, always being inspired with creativity. What are some meditations, or your favorite one at least, that you have used and still do over the course of your life that you can share with us that's really powerful, that can get some things moving?
Good question. There's practices that I can share. Yeah, well, this is one that I used when I was younger, and I spontaneously, in fact, I've used it for about 40 years, this meditation, which is that I get into that quiet state, I allow the breathing to change so that it's more of an extended exhale. So the exhale is longer than the inhale. I take the focus upwards, and sometimes that means actually looking up, and be aware that you're in a stream of light that's constantly flowing in, and it's flowing past you, through you, and around you. It's a constant stream, and you allow yourself to become quiet and aware that you are drinking or ingesting that stream of light. And then I work on some aspect of the ego self that I've become aware of, something that's popped up in daily life, some anger or pride or some small thing that has, or large things sometimes. Like if I've got an issue with one of my family members, family are interesting, aren't they? Because family really give you challenges, and that's what they're meant to do, that you've got stuff to work out together. But anyway, what I do is I take that issue because I realise that is not me. You know, the issue is not me, it's the ego self. And I pray for that to be released from me. And I imagine with my etheric hands, sometimes I use my physical ones, and I hand it over into the light to be purified. And I just hold my hands there until I can feel that some weight of that ego self has been released. And sometimes I'm doing that every single day. And at other times I get release in between something that's working its way through karmically. And my meditations are just in the light. But then other times I'm back to this handing over into the light. And there's something incredibly magical about holding the hands at heart level, because the hands become like channels of light. They become purifiers. You know, with the hands facing upwards, we're in that humble, receptive mode. We allow ourselves to receive. For the hands facing down, we're channeling down into the earth. The hands facing up, but hands facing up allows our energies to rise. I hope that's helpful.
It opened
There
up the
doesn't have to
chakras
be
in my
any
hand immediately.
strong structure to it, just the intention to raise your energies and to come into the light, and also to have the intention of handing over, to let go, to release attachment.
I'm going to use this meditation. As soon as I've done this, I mean, we all have our own spiritual gestures, right? As soon as I've done this, the chakras in my palm popped right open. I could feel it. Oh my! I can feel this like it's no joke. It's like it stimulates at least those two chakras in the heart. I can feel this triangle, if you will. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yes, there's many heart chakras in the center of the palms that links into the heart. So if you're wanting to work on the heart, then you're working with the hands, but particularly at this level. I mean, obviously you can have the hands that are on the thighs, but I think you're working more with the lower chakras when you do that. Sometimes I do this one where I'm touching forefinger and thumb, hands facing up, and then linking into the third eye, the Ajna chakra. And then you're making a triangle of light between the points of light. If you tune into the pulsation on that space between the two areas of skin, forefinger and thumb, and the star that's on the brow, you're creating a triangle. And that's a great one for purifying as well.
So you're like me. You are a peace junkie. Let me ask you this, dear. This is a really good question. What does inner peace look or feel like? And how do we know when we are really walking into it very nicely?
I would say inner peace is your natural state of being. And what it feels like is an expanded space where everything just is intuitively right. There is no what we have in our third dimensional reality or non-reality is there's some part of yourself that's always vying. There's the ego self and the higher self or the soul. There and make some cast aspersion, judgment, to bring in anger, or to distract you from what you're actually focusing on at any one time. So in meditation, that's the monkey mind, the ego self. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Let me tell you something, sister. I lose my train of thought very, very often. When I'm being interviewed or when I'm doing a presentation just with an audience, I'm getting in this ball of energy, right? And then Keith, this guy, sitting in this body, channeling this dialogue, whatever it is I'm doing, he goes bye-bye. I'm not in the body anymore. Do you think this is part of all of what's going on, or is it just our silver-headedness? do we need some comprehension medicine or what?
No, I don't.
Some herbs?
I don't subscribe to that aging stuff. Do you know? I just think we are what we are. But yeah, I think sometimes I've got 3 points that I'm trying to say in my head, and I've got them all lined up, and then one of them will pop out, and it'll take the other two with it.
Yeah, I frequent that space often. How many books you have out now? 2?
3.
3.
3. Yeah, the one in the middle, 2019, is called Divine Peace, the 26 spiritual qualities of the Bhagavad Gita. So I was looking at chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's verse 1 to 3, or sloka 1 to 3, where it talks about the 26 spiritual qualities. So I thought I would break each one down as a chapter and look at ways that you could emulate that spiritual quality. What would it look like? So spiritual qualities like ahimsa, non-harming, and how you might achieve it. So there's a meditation in each chapter, plus some food for thought, possibly some introspection to be done. I aspire to journaling, to allow people to write out, let intuitive side come through after meditation, and just find out what comes out. So I mean that was a really deep book, and it's got a lot of the Indian scripture quotes, and also some quotes from the Bible, because there's an awful lot of deep spirituality in the words of Jesus. So I've tried to incorporate them. It's funny when I'm writing, I tend to write about this time. For me, this is 1 a.m, but I tend to write about this time, and I got all these words in my head, and I just go on, put on the laptop, come out of sleep. I've slept for an hour or two, and then I just type for hours, and it's just a complete download of what I've got to type next. So I couldn't say there's any effort much in it, other than the physical effort of actually producing it. And I've always had this idea that each one of the books is already written. It's written in the ethers. I just need to be the physical vessel that gets it out there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The work's already. I'm trying to bring it into the physical, and there's actually you're making me think of other instances. Every single one of my books. Now this is an odd one, right? Every single one of the books, before it came as a concept, as an idea, before I even knew I was going to write. What it would do, it was like I'd be awake in the morning, and in that moment between waking and sleeping, where things are, part of your consciousness is still in the astral. There would be a download of the book itself in the ether. I could see it. I could turn the pages. I knew what the cover was going to be. I knew what the book was going to contain, and very often I knew the title. And each one of them has come as this a very, very rich experience. This book here, Awakening the Lotus of Peace, Yoga Meditations for Inner Peace, it came, I'm trying to get the light right, because you can't see it.
There you go. Perfect.
This book came as a complete download concept as my husband was driving, and we were driving back from Kintyre, so it's a 4-hour journey. And on that journey, this was 2 years ago, I started writing it. And as we're driving along, the download came as I'm sitting in the passenger seat, that's new because I'm usually in my own at the time. And I was in this godlike space. Everything was just, there was so much light pouring out of my heart, so much love pouring out of my heart. And this book appeared in the ether, and I just knew that that's what I had to do. And I started writing it that night.
When I had my experience many years ago, when I heard that voice coming out of sleep state, in that place between here and here, I'm coming out of sleep because I'm hearing a voice. Looked around the house, there's nobody there. Dream voice. I get to go back to sleep. Well, when I laid back the second time, the voice said, "Hello, Keith." And I heard it on every level. Every level. I heard it audibly, yes. But I smelled the voice. I tasted the voice. I felt the voice. And I knew in that moment something, my life was not, and I was scared. Not scared of the presence nor the message. I didn't know what this was going to become from all that. And it took me a while to integrate. It still does. Everything's always integrating. Serious downloads. Do your ears ring when you get downloads? It's sort of a side effect many people report.
No, I don't think so, that they become hot. But then again, I think it's mostly coming in through the crown of my head, not my ears, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Or through the back of the head. I don't think it's the ears themselves. No, I don't. I hear it in my head. But that, psychic listening, that psychic hearing, I mean, there's been many experiences in my life where that... There's been several times in my life when pivotal events happened. You woke up that morning, you didn't know that your whole world was about to change. And even up till 2 minutes before your whole world was about to change, you didn't know.
We got a drop call.
Warm voice in my ear that has...
Jenny, excuse me. We had your audio dropped out. Could you repeat the last paragraph, please?
You sound like I'm reading it out.
All right.
I was talking about being guided through my life. Not all the time, but not that I was aware of, but there were certain times with, and I'm talking about the end of my first marriage. I'm talking about other events that happened in my life, pivotal things. There was a warm hand on my shoulder and a very comforting statement that placed me in complete and utter calm, and I was able to make the changes that were required without me having any distress whatsoever, even though my world had totally changed. But you're right about being able to hear, feel, smell. You're enveloped, and it was a totally loving experience.
Do you have quite a few spiritual influences in your life? Or could we spoke about Paramahansa? Who are some others? I heard you spoke about Jesus, or do you find that they're more like mystics from India?
Well, is Jesus not from India? Well, I mean, I know he was born in Israel, but I mean, he's very much under the teachings of India. I mean, where did he go in that intervening years between the age of 12 and when he came back at 30? There's lots and lots of scriptures in India that talk about him. So he was over there doing his teachings and also learning in that intervening time. So, I mean, Jesus is a yogi.
You know, even the Buddhists in their text, they talk about he's coming, that he was coming towards that part of the world. And then you have someone like Osho Rajneesh, who tells another story about Jesus that's truly, for most people, and I can understand why, just completely unbelievable. Have you ever heard that?
No, can you fill me in? Because that sounds fascinating.
Sure. He says, if Jesus died on Friday, the Jewish tradition is at 6 o'clock on the Sabbath, on Friday, everything stops. That supposedly Pontius Pilate made a deal with someone who had some power, some weight. So they took Jesus down, put him in the tomb. His followers took him, brought him wherever. He healed himself, lived to be 110 years old, and died, and he's buried in Kashmir.
Well, I don't know. There's many stories I can't possibly say, but I mean, I know that there is a lot of evidence that is purported by certain mystics in Scotland that Jesus came with Mary to Scotland and had a child. But I mean, I don't know myself. I'm only relating what I've heard.
Angles and stories about, you know, the highest idea there is, which is the Christ. You know, and they're all true. I love the entertaining idea that they're all true. It makes the story so much more beautiful for me. It's great. It takes it out of that box. I'm having some issues with my PC. Hopefully everything's good. We're getting slowly but surely towards the top of the hour. Do you think that meditation, personal meditation, can have a serious impact on the world? And how is that the metaphysics behind that?
Yeah, I think absolutely 100% personal meditation is the number one greatest thing that you can do to impact on the mass consciousness. Your meditation is going to be for your own personal gain, so your soul awakening, but also you can't help, once you realize your own innate peace and so your soul nature within, you can't help but influence all those around you. So your neighborhood, your city, your country, the world itself, you can't help but pan out that quiet within. You talked about inner as outer, or up, but really going in. You talked about that earlier on. I mean, that is the perception that you get in deep meditation. I mean, what's up and what's down and what's in and what's out. I think everything just seems to come from, we seem to think at the beginning in meditation we're moving our consciousness upward, but I've come to realize the actual fact that mostly it's just moving, it's moving in which to move out. I've had these experiences of the heart opening up, and I don't mean the heart chakra itself, I mean the secret chamber in the heart behind all of that, where there's nothing but love and light, and it's just pouring out, and there's this fire, I can feel it as a fire pouring out, and I'm blessing everything, I'm blessing everyone, everything, and I'm just, all I feel is love for the entire, civilization of the world, to every being in it. So I know that the greatest thing that you can do is to have a meditation practice. And it may be difficult in the beginning because we're fighting the monkey mind. And I would say, don't fight, because what you resist persists. But just take your mind gently away from it, as if you were training, training a toddler, you calmly say what's got to be done, calmly but firmly extricate your consciousness and bring it back onto what you're focusing on. What's your foci for that meditation practice, whatever that might be. You just calmly keep bringing your attention back, even if it's all you're getting is a millisecond and your attention's been drawn again by the ego. The ego self is noticeable in the fact that it's always interrupting, it's casting doubt, it's negative thoughts or distracting thoughts, whereas the soul self that you are aiming to uncover, because it's in there, it's pure, it's perfect, it's uncover, is only positive, calm, peaceful and healing. So whenever you get that interruption, you go, well, that's not me, that is the ego self. So I'm not going to fight it, because if I fight it, then it's going to persist, it's going to continue. It's like giving it attention. If you give negative attention to a child, they'll think, oh, that's what the adult wants me to do. So don't do it. Don't give any attention to things that you don't want to have perpetuated. Just don't.
Yeah, right.
Because you'll notice the errant thoughts, they come bubbling up. They're bubbling up from within somewhere because of latent karmic tendencies. They're bubbling up, and you've got about 1 or at very most 2 seconds that it presents itself, and if you don't give it attention, they bubble on through and they're gone, and you're free of that interruption. So just allowing yourself to be as calmly focused as you can, and don't look at the distraction. Don't give it don't give it a physical look, don't give it a mental look. Just allow it to, because you know that if you can count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, it's bubbled away, it's gone until the next one comes. You might find it's a constant barrage of distracting thoughts, but the more you practice non-engagement with them, the calmer your meditation will become.
I love following someone's river to their soul when they engage like what you're doing, and I allow myself just to take it in. I get to feel more of what it's like to be you and the levels of joy that you have. Thank you for joining me on Center of Light Radio tonight, dear. I'm having some computer troubles. I'm having drop frames everywhere. Something's going on. Would you like to leave us with a final thought that we can maybe chew on and help us to expand just a little further into our kingdom?
I just want to say that continue, if you haven't got a meditation practice, decide that this is the day. And I don't let the day end before you sit and have 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of quietly going within to practice non-engagement with those errant thoughts. What I mean to say is focus on the light that is pouring in through the crown of the head and not the errant thoughts. But just don't let a day end when you don't have at least 2 minutes to have quiet for meditation. I try and make things easy for people in the way that it's something that's achievable. If you've got more time, then make that time, but use that time for meditation instead of scrolling on Instagram or some other
Right. Dear, thank you so much. Everyone, tonight my guest is Miss Jenny Light. We do have links in these forums, so please check it out. Her new book has been released. Whenever you have any new thing that you want to do, new book, whatever it is you're doing, contact me. We can sit and have another dialogue. I would love that greatly.
That's been a pleasure, Keith.
Blessings, dear. Good to see you. Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard, the Center of Light Foundation Radio. Yo, I'm having some issues with my computer, so I'm going to sign out. I love you beyond measure. Do you love yourself beyond measure? There's no end to you. You will always exist. There's no thing, check this out. non-existent does not exist. That which exists can never become non-existent. You are the permanent one, forever. Become forever conscious. But it's all a game. Leela. Have fun. Peace, love, and you are the light. Had another glitch. See you guys shortly.